أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعه وله وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد. All praises due to Allah. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Today's session, inshallah, it is a one session subject, and it talks about the القصص في القرآن والسنة. القصص في القرآن والسنة. Storytelling in Quran والسنة of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. First, we have to know what qasas is. As I trained you before, whenever you talk about a a definition, whenever you talk about something, you have to do the definition. You have to do the definition. You have to understand the definition, how the definition goes. Al-qasas, that's one word. Fi, that's another word. In, qasas means stories. In, يعني في القرآن, that's another word. والسنة, another word. So you have to understand each word separately, and then you have to understand the construct, means the sentence. And this is very important in logic, human logic. I'm not going to talk about logic now. It's a very deep subject, very many branches of everywhere. So it's not our issue today, but I'm giving you just the idea that when people speak with logic, always they reach solutions. Even if they don't reach solutions, they know because the logic is not followed. But the problem is when everybody follows their desire, you find people shouting and nobody's listening. So what are qasas? Qasas, يعني plural of qissa, means a story or a tale. Can be real, non-fiction, can be fiction. But in English, you have stories, you have fables, you have mythology, you have like different things. And in Arabic, it's much wider than that. So you have stories, that realistic stories that happened, and you have stories also that did not happen, and you have symbolic stories. Symbolic stories, like animals talking, and they call it fables in English. And so the story has a goal of teaching a lesson. It is not only for leisure, like many people think, it's a bedtime story or something, but it has a goal. And even a bedtime story is to make a person sleep, relax. So why they relax? Because it's a story. And what makes a story make a person relax? Because it has details, it has exciting things, and human nature appeal to that. You want to know, you're curious, you want to know the details, you want to know the sequence. Another human being, something happened, or another animal, or another existence. You will find always people have zero tolerance to stories. They want to know what is next. I did this exercise with you before when I'm coming from home. Then I found somebody waiting for me outside the driveway, and they had like a very interesting looking car, and they just called my name, and I don't know how they knew my name. Then I stopped right there. What you all feel right now? Like what you all feel right now? Can I continue the class, or do you want to know you want to hear the rest of the story? I'm asking.
I want to hear the rest of the story.
Actually, there was no story, but I just made that up right now. So you really want to know, and now the more interesting they make the story, the more you want to know. Okay, now let me tell you an actual story of mine, okay? an actual story of mine. There was an issue between me and someone when I was in Minnesota. I'm just, going fast forward. An issue between me and someone in Minnesota. We had like some issues, some, misunderstanding and all of that. And that person does not want to talk to me, even though I was an assistant imam and the director of a masjid. Okay. Time goes by, weeks goes by, months goes by, and one of his friends, he travels overseas to Africa, to villages in Africa. And that person is blind. The friend of that person who had an issue with me is blind, and he knows Quran a little bit and all that, and he was not Muslim, but he became Muslim. So anyways, that blind person goes to his village, which is very remote area of Sudan. And then he comes back after like the summer, spend the summer, and then suddenly I find that person, his friend, who had issues with me, coming to me, trying to kiss my hand, trying to kiss my head, and I'm sorry, Sheikh, I did not know your value, please forgive me, blah, blah, blah. I was wondering, then I asked him, what made you do that? Now, if I stop here now, sisters, do you want me to do the class or finish the story?
Finish the story, please.
That's a true story, by the way. And it's very interesting.
You ignite our interests.
Exactly. See, I'm practically telling you what stories in Quran and Sunnah do. How do they function? In general, that's how a story functions. Now imagine if it's coming from the divine, if it's coming from Allah Azza wa Jal. So I asked the person, what happened and all that. She said, what happened is like out of this world. I don't have an explanation for it. Nobody has an explanation for it. And I've been like going through my mind for like few days now, but I do not know, except that there is a sign from Allah that we were wrong and you are a good man and please forgive us. So I told him, please let me, you have to tell me what's going on. He said, no, I'm not going to tell you, but I'll let that brother tell you. That blind brother who went to that remote area in Sudan. Now things are coming together, right? So I call him and I wait for him eagerly. He comes like after a day or two. I don't remember exactly, but he said, Sheikh, something very strange happened the first week I went over there in Sudan. Told him what happened. He said, I'm blind, I don't see. So there is a brother of mine. He takes me around. He does not know anybody here in America. He does not know anyone. He only knows that I'm in America. And he takes me around, See. So he said we were walking to the masjid, like in Fajr prayer, early to go to Fajr. It's dark, remote area in a village in Sudan. And then suddenly we were stopped by this tall, white dressed Sudanese older man with a white beard and the Sudanese turban, traditional dress, as his brother described, right? And that person looks so nice and having like this tasbih in his hand, and he says, Assalamu alaikum ya fulan. Assalamu alaikum such and such. He called him by his name. That's the first thing, right? And he said, Wa alaikum salam. I said, where are you going? He said, I'm going to Salat al-Fajr. I said, okay, I'll walk with you. So he walks with him and he told him, how do you know my name? He told him, I know your name. And I know you are in the masjid in America. And you study there with a scholar over there and all of that. So I told him, he stopped, he started like freaking out, being scared, I told him, don't be scared, Allah Azza wa Jal has his ways of teaching people things. So I told him, okay. He told him, before I go, I just want to tell you, you have a sheikh there. His name is Sheikh Mamdouh Mahmoud. He's from Egypt. Please take good care of him and be nice to him. Wassalamu alaikum. And he leaves, and they do not see him in the masjid. They do not see him anywhere after that. And the story finishes. And that's a true story, by the way. I mentioned that story to one of my shuyukh, may Allah have mercy on him, in Egypt, that I finished the Quran with. And he smiled and he said, we are not alone, Ya Sheikh Mamdouh, in this world. We are not alone. And Allah Azza wa Jal defends his people. And Allah Azza wa Jal teaches people in different ways. And Allah chooses to teach in different ways. And the amount that we know is nothing. It is like a dot in the ocean, So I believe what you did. And he told me a similar story that happened to him. It's even more amazing, that he goes to a coffee shop one time, was traveling from one place to another by the train. And the Sheikh was also blind, Sheikh Abdul Basit Hashim, rahimahullah. So when I told him this story, he told me, since you told me this, I'm going to tell you something that I did not tell anyone before either. So he told me that he was in a train, and then, when he was waiting for the train, to travel from Cairo to his town, then he sat on a coffee shop and he asked the guy to bring him a tea, a special kind of herbal tea or something like that. And he's sitting and drinking, and the Sheikh is blind, but he's very smart. He moves around by himself. Then he said, someone told him, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi, Sheikh. I said, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. He said, can I join you? The place is crowded and I want to join with you. He said, yeah, please, sit. He told him, what are you drinking? He told him, I'm drinking this herbal tea. He said, I would love one of those. So the Sheikh called the guy in the coffee shop, and he told him, bring the man tea, same thing. So he brought tea, same thing. And the guy started drinking, and he told him, you are a Sheikh of Quran, right? He told him, yes. How do you know? He said, you look like one, and I'm a Sheikh of Quran too. So he said that, okay, what you are? So he told him, I am the student of such and such Sheikh, who was a high Sheikh. And, he started reciting with him, sitting there for a couple of hours. They talked and they laughed and they, what's your name? My name is this, my name is that. Where are you? Okay, I'll come visit you in your masjid one time after you come back from your trip, and all of this kind of things. وقال له السلام عليكم, we left. The guy, السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. وعليكم السلام. He left. خلاص كده. Then the Sheikh, his train is about to arrive. So he told the guy for the check. Told him, تعال الحساب. Give me how much? So he charged him for one tea. He told him, what about the other cup of tea? He told him, what other cup of tea? I told him, the other cup of tea I ordered. He told him, لا يا شيخ, you ordered only one special herbal tea that you always drink here when you're traveling. Told him, يا ابني, and I'm not crazy. He told him, I'm not crazy either. You are sitting here in front of me. And I told him, the guy that I ordered the tea for him said, what guy? There was no guy. You were sitting here by yourself and you were talking and reciting Quran, and as if somebody was talking to you, but there was no one. I told him, okay, no problem. So the Sheikh said that who knows who that person was, but I remember I was not sleeping. I remember exactly the verses we recited. I remember exactly what he told me. I remember exactly the name and everything. فيعني, those are things out of this world. Now, do we have any kind of similar things to that? Yes, we do. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yani, people see things in a dream that it was very realistic, like the Adhan dream, story of the Adhan. A person comes to Rasulullah when Rasulullah said, how can we know that the Salah time is about to happen? They said, we use a trumpet like the Jews, or the bell like the Christians. What should we do? So a man slept, and then he saw a person who had a bill. He told him, how much you want to sell it? He said, why? He told him, I wanted to give it to Rasulullah for the time of the Salah, so a sign. He said, I'm going to teach you something better. He taught him the Adhan. He goes to the Prophet. He said, that's a true dream. Angel taught you. This is from Allah. Then the Prophet ﷺ made sure that the Adhan is done. Are you there, sisters? The Adhan he taught Bilal, and the Adhan is done properly. That's a story. Sayyidina Umar, that's the amazing part now, came running when he heard the Adhan of Bilal. He was not even dressed completely. So he come to the Prophet and said, what is this? He told him this. And he said, Wallahi, I saw a dream, and he narrated the exact dream like the other man. Okay. Someone comes to stole something in the army of Khalid bin Walid, and somebody sees a vision that the person who died and he stole his stuff came in a dream and told the leader of his group that who took it, where he put it, and everything. And please, when you get my money, give this person that, and I owe it to this person or that to that person. So he came to him and specifically said exactly how his inheritance. And they saying this is the only person who made wasiyah after his death. Another, that Sariya ibn Jabal, he was leading an army at the time of Sayyidina Umar, and Sayyidina Umar saw that Sariya is stuck while he's giving khutbah, while they are like hundreds of kilometers apart from each other. So Sayyidina Umar sees him as he sees a screen in front of him, and then he talked to him, and he said, go toward the mountain, while he is in the khutbah. And everybody heard to go to the mountain. And then, they told him later, he said that I saw, like as if he's in front of me, and he's stuck, and the only way to be saved is the mountain. And then later, 1 month later, comes Sariya. They told him what happened. He said, we were about to be defeated, and we were ambushed, and we heard a voice. Every one of us heard it, like the voice of Umar telling us, Ya Sariyat al-Jabal, go toward the mountain. And we went toward the mountain and we won. Okay, فيعني, there are numerous stories like that. And many of our shuyukh, they have stories like this. Some we can narrate, some we cannot narrate. And it happened to people whom Allah Azza wa Jal choose, like things that they see in front of them. فيعني, the story of those things, it attracts you. You see how excited you are now? How focused? I'm 100% sure that all of you are very focused to hear the story, right? And we write in our notes, story gets the attention of people, undivided attention. Story, you relate to a human experience. Story, you teach, it has a goal. You teach a lesson from it. And that's what qissa is. Fi means in. Now we are going to specify a certain type of story or a certain narrative of story. For the Quran, the book of Allah, the Sunnah, tradition of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this will take away the stories that came in the Bible or the stories that came before. Some of the stories that we have in Quran and Sunnah came in the Bible or the stories before. We take it because it came in the Quran. We take away the human stories, like man-made stories. We take away the possibility of having lies. Pay attention, huh? Having lies. And when a story comes in the Quran or Sunnah, who is saying? Allah. وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حَدِيثًا. Yani nobody is more truthful than Allah. So you know for sure that any story is 100% true, because any statement can be lie, can be truthful, except if it's coming from Allah and His Rasul. Now, Sheikh Mamduh's story might be exaggerating. I might have thought something. I might have imagined something. Possible. But when Allah says, this happened to Shu'aib, this happened to Musa, it happened. Fir'aun said means Fir'aun said. The Prophet ﷺ said means Prophet ﷺ said. The Sahaba said, the Sahaba said. Munafiqeen said. Shaitan said means Shaitan said. No iota of doubt. So you take away this credibility issue, like no credibility issues. And no, it cannot be narrated better than this, because it's in the Quran. It cannot be narrated better than that. And no story can be better than it. Okay? So now, when we say al-qasas, fil Quran wa Sunnah, fi, it will define it now. But when we say al-qasas in general, means any story by anybody, it is true or false, it's fable or symbolic or mythology or whatever. Now, when you say fi, means in, means you're going to be now exempting or you are going to be eliminating. Once you say the word fil Quran, means for Quran only. Fil Quran was Sunnah means Quran Sunnah only. If you say in the Quran of Sunnah or Tariq al-Islami, Islamic history only. So the more words you do, the more it can confine or the more it can loosen. So when you say القصص في القرآن means not Sunnah, not Hadith Qudsi. When you say في القرآن والسنة means Quran, Sunnah, Hadith Qudsi. All right? So there are قصص like that. يعني القصة is always about the past. Something happened in the past, not in the future. The future is more of not a story. It is more of an example or more of a vision. Futuristic thing means did not happen. You cannot relate. It may happen like this, may not, but when Allah says it will happen, it will happen, but still you do not have something to relate to. And when you say in the grave, that's what happened. How can you relate to it? It is ghaib, right? Nobody came back to give you some input. It's all ghaib. But in the past, you can relate. Even though you did not say it, you can relate. Yeah, people would do that. Yeah, people disbelieve in Prophet Noah and Prophet Ibrahim and Prophet Musa, and people always disbelieve in good people right now, so you can relate to it. Okay? You can relate to it. But when you say the horror is a day judgment, it's something like there is no standard for it. There's no criteria for it to relate to. Would the hellfire be like a volcano? We don't know. It's fire, but is it that fire? There are rivers of milk in Jannah. Is it the same milk? Is it like beige color, pink color? What color? No color? What is it? You see? So that's not a story. So when we talk about the story, it's a story of the past, what happened in the past. But what are the stories in the Quran? The stories is what Allah narrated about what happened before the revelation of Prophet Muhammad or during the revelation. And Allah talk about Ghazwat al-Ahzab. That's something happened at the time of the Prophet. حتى يقول الرسول والذين آمنوا معه متى نصر الله والمنافقون إذ يقول المنافقون والذين في قلوبهم مرض غر هؤلاء دينهم. Allah is talking about incidents that happened at the time of the Prophet. So he's telling a story that was current, but for us now it is past. Right? So those are the stories. So stories of Sunnah is what Rasulullah told us. Also it's wahi from Allah, but it is through Rasulullah. Now Rasulullah will say a person from the nations before you was walking and going, traveling, and then he heard the sound in the clouds, that the clouds say, go and water the garden of such and such person. And then he followed the cloud and he goes and find a person with his tools or axe, putting the water, channeling the water to his garden. And he told him, "O servant of Allah, who are you?" He told him, "My name is such and such." He told him, "I heard your name. The cloud says such and such and this. What do you do?" He said, "Since you heard it and now you know my name and you heard my name, I plant this with a niyyah that I divide the harvest to 3 parts. One part that I planted back again in the land. One part I save it for my family and trade in it, and one part I give sadaqah." He said, "That's why Allah Azza wa Jalla chose you." So that's a qissa of the Sunnah, story of the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. A person before you, he was sinful, and in his deathbed, he says to his children, "Oh, my children, when I die, burn me. And after you burn me, take my ashes, and in a very windy day, just throw my ashes in the wind. Because if Allah Azza wa Jalla catches me, he's going to punish me a punishment that he never punished anyone before." So he thought with his mind that doing that, he will be out of the reach of Allah Azza wa Jalla, out of Allah's reach. The Prophet ﷺ said once he died, Allah Azza wa Jalla ordered the wind to bring the ashes and ordered the sea to bring the ashes and put the ashes together. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla ordered him to stand in front of Allah, and he told him, "My servant, why you did what you did?" He said, "Ya Allah, out of fear from you, and I know that you are able, but I was trying, but out of fear of you, that to stand on you, I'm ashamed, so Allah forgive him." That's a story. You see, I can go on and on and on. Stories of the Sunnah. Now, story of the Sunnah is what the Prophet said. He can say about happening at his time or happening before him, but it's a story. It has a moral, it has a goal, it has a system in it. Allah Azza wa Jalla says stories of the prophets, or stories of common people. The person who owns the 2 gardens in Surah Al-Kahf, story of Dhul Qarnayn, the story of Musa and Al-Khadr, stories of prophets with their people, story of Shaitan with Adam, the conversation between Allah and the Shaitan, stories. Okay, فالله عز وجل says كذلك نقص عليك من أنباء ما قد سبق. Surah Taha, verse 99. That is, we are narrating stories from you from what was there before. It can be for people, individuals, can be for groups, can be story of the bird with Sulaiman alayhi salam, or the ant talking and Sulaiman alayhi salam listening to it, or other things. So why? Because it is with truth and for guidance, for admonition, for listen to learn. Allah Azza wa Jal took away any doubt that you may have by saying إن هذا لهو القصص الحق. Al-Imran 62. إن هذا لهو القصص الحق. Truly, these are the true stories, truthful stories. What are the lessons? Sometimes the lesson comes, Allah Azza wa Jal tell exactly why. وكلا نقص عليك من أنباء الرسل ما نثبت به فؤادك. Hud 120. And we narrate those stories from the nations before this, the prophets before you, so we can make your heart firm, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the goal here is to do what? Is to make the heart of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam firm. The heart of the Prophet firm, so you do not have doubt or you do not feel sad that you are the only one going through what you go through. Okay? وَكُلًّا نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الرُّسُلِ مَا نُثَبِّتُ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ. Not only for the Prophet, for anyone. You're going through hardship, you read Surah Sayyidina Yusuf, you see the test, you see everything, you feel better. Also to bring people to the worship of Allah. Tawheed, da'wah ila tawheed. When Allah Azza wa Jalla says, Surah Al-Anbiya 25, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ قَبْلِكَ مِنْ رَسُولٍ إِلَّا نُوحِي إِلَيْهِ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا فَاعْبُدُونِ. We have not sent a messenger before you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, except we reveal to him. Please mute yourself, sisters. Mute yourself. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ قَبْلِكَ مِنْ رَسُولٍ. We have not sent a messenger before you, except we reveal to him that there is no one worthy of worship but Allah. Why Allah is telling the Prophet that? That means you are doing it, prophets before you did it. That means this is the message. So I am telling you these stories, as Allah Azza wa Jalla said to the Prophet, I am telling you those stories, so you do the same thing that the people before. So when you hear a story of good, means you go ahead and do it. You hear a story of bad, you don't do it. Me and you, hearing the story between Sayyidina Musa and the Fir'aun. So which side you are? You are the side of Musa. What did Sayyidina Musa do? He gave da'wah, he was brave and he was polite and he followed the way of Allah and his brother was with him and he went through challenge. What did the other side do? Did everything to destroy his message. Did that deter Sayyidina Musa? No. So what are you doing now? That's how you relate to a story. Okay? There is a story of a human being, you are a human being. He is a messenger and you are a teacher. You are not a messenger, yes, but do we do the same thing or not? Yes, we do. That's why the messenger is sent. What did people challenge him with? Those things. And people challenging me with less. Why am I quitting? Well, he did not quit. And that is how we learn from stories, right? Also, the stories, one of the reasons of the stories or the goals of the stories is to affirm the prophethood and the truthfulness of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? That he is doing the same thing of the nations before, whether they know the story. The Jews knew their stories, Christians knew their stories. And when the Prophet ﷺ said the same thing, he said, oh, that's in our book too. He did exactly like Musa, he did exactly like Isa, he did exactly like Yaqub, he did exactly like Ishaq. They have those records. So they can relate. So that these people supposed to be the one who know more than anyone else that he is the messenger of Allah. Also, the mushrikeen of Quraysh who do not have this knowledge, but they know Arabic very well. They know he's truthful. They know all these qualifications, and he's telling them things that there is no way that he can know by himself. They should know as well. Also, one of the goals of the stories of the Quran and the Sunnah is to show us that there is a day of judgment, and there is no doubt. The basic belief of a Muslim is believing in the unseen. You know, the difference between Islam as a religion and secularism. That secularism says that there has to be no cap of religion above the laws of man. Means everybody can do whatever they want, and there is no divine that tells us what to do. And how they will do that, they will say, if I don't see it, I don't believe in it. So keep the ghaib to your personal thing in the church or the mosque or whatever, but this is the science and this is everything. And they contradict their own self. But they say, no, once the theory says that, we follow it. If it's proven wrong, then we'll follow the new one, and so on and so forth. Yani canceling their head. But they cannot. So this is how should I say this? Yani religion in general is a module to understand everything within through that module. There is a frame called religion, and I see everything through that frame. I live everything through that frame. I communicate through that frame. I raise my children through that frame. I live and die through that frame. That's called the religion. So now, for religion to say that Allah told me, Prophet told me, scholars tell me, this is halal, this is haram, but you are within the frame called religion. Now, secular does not want that frame. They say human mind is the frame. Human achievement is the frame. Our human experience is the frame. Right, wrong, we figure out things, doesn't matter, but do not bring that religion. Why? Because religion will unite people to the same source, under the same umbrella. And they don't want to do that. Because if you are united under the same umbrella, then whenever there is a dispute, you'll say what God said. But they want to say everything they want. And they contradict themselves again. Because at the end of the day, whoever have more power, whoever have more clout, whoever have more money, whoever have more politics, whoever have more armies, they are the ones who are going to impose their opinion, right? So that is the whole idea of between the two. So now, when we say that our stories tell us there is a day of judgment, so secular will say, no, there is no day of judgment, because I don't know. Nobody went and came back, so I don't know if it exists or not, but most likely it doesn't exist. If we do not hear about it, it doesn't exist. So it's a possibility, probability, but it's not there. Allah Azza wa Jal shows us this through the stories of the Quran. Before, that's why I'm saying, why I said all of that. Before you benefit from the story, you have to believe in the ghaib and the unseen of the Quran, that this is the truth. Even though there is no way to prove it is the truth except just knowing it in your heart. This is Allah talking to me. Where is Allah? I haven't seen him, but I believe in him. Where is Prophet Muhammad? I haven't seen him, but he existed in history. Quran came from Allah. I did not see that happening, but I believe in it. So this is our basic belief. So belief system is to believe with conviction. Yani blindly believe, but with conviction that this is the right way. And you're going to see the result of it. Yani it will take away your doubt. But that's the choice. If you don't have that choice and you want everything physical and all of that, you're going to get stuck. You're going to get stuck. That's why we said, except if a miracle happens. Then a miracle happens, but they still don't believe in the miracle. I can tell you right now, a story, and I swear on it and its authenticity. This is the only story that I can swear on its authenticity. But other stories, similar stories, I don't know. I'm just hearing from people. But this one, I swear on its authenticity. Like 2 years ago, a woman was diagnosed with cancer. This woman has a daughter, and the daughter had like 3 children. And her husband, the husband of the daughter, is my friend. Okay? So that's, I know firsthand. My friend, he was there at my wedding, and he took me with his car, and like he's my friend. I know him. It's not like someone like I don't know, or just an acquaintance. It's a friend. Like we talk. I know him. So his mother-in-law diagnosed with 4th stage cancer. His wife healthy. He is healthy, goes to the gym, joking and just whatever. And even he was not that practicing, but later he became like practicing more and more and more, grew his beard and did good. So anyways, may Allah have mercy on all. So 3 children, happy wife, healthy husband, cancer mother. That's 2 years ago. 4th stage cancer. They wanted to bring her to the States, they want to take her to Germany, her this and that. She said, listen, I'm dying. So what I want to do is I just want to go to Hajj and I want to die there. I don't die there. At least I did Hajj the last thing. So don't worry about me. No chemo, no radiation. I do not want any of it. I surrender and I'm done. She's a very good woman. Okay? طيب. She goes to Hajj. And she spent extra time there. She spent almost 2 months there, well, a month and a half. You know, from Egypt, they stay for a month, but she went earlier, she came later. Allah made a plan for her. She came back. Everybody say, SubhanAllah, she gained weight, her face looks bright, looks everything. And the amazing thing, she goes to her doctor and there is no cancer. Okay, there is no cancer whatsoever. They tell her, no way in the world. You were a completely different person, your blood tests and everything. Now everything is like went back, disappeared. And there are even some traces that there was cancer, but there's no cancer. You kind of like remission, khalas, done. So everyone is like kind of, what is happening here? She said, the barakah, I did not drink any water over there except from Zamzam. And I make dua to Allah day and night that, Ya Allah, if it is my time, take me here. If it is not my time, heal me before I go to Egypt. True story, huh? And then she goes back to Egypt. Guess what happens next? 2 months later, her daughter diagnosed with cancer and dies in 2 months. Before they even can do any treatment. It was that. Healthy woman, happy woman, 3 children, diagnosed with cancer, and within 2 months, hey, this, that, she died. A month ago, that friend of mine died as well. For no reason, except Allah took his life. He's going to Fajr prayer, died in his own bed. Did not wake up. And leave the 3 children, 2 healthy, happy parents, leave the 3 children for a woman who was diagnosed with 4th stage cancer. And then, she is the one who's taking care of them right now, as we're speaking. Healthy, good grandmother raising the 3 children. You see? So those are stories. Now, how science explains this? Bring a secular person to explain that. A context, huh? He will tell you, because he had a heart attack. Yes, he had a heart attack. Oh, she's diagnosed with cancer because it was there 10 years ago. Yeah, I know. We know all of that scientifically. But does this story make sense to you more in a scientific context or in a religious context? I want an answer from you.
In the religious.
It makes more sense, right? It touches
Yes.
your heart, right? It makes you cry, right?
Yes.
It affects you. That is the idea of the qasas of the Quran and the Sunnah. But if everything we explain science will become like a machine, will become like the couch, the chair. But what is the point? We're animals. We live and we die and there is no purpose. What is this? It does not even make sense. Why I'm here then? To function and have children and have a relationship and eat and drink and go to the bathroom and make paychecks and everything. If there is nothing waiting for me after, why is this? Like, why? It's a waste of time. Wouldn't you think? It's a waste of time. Like, why? Like, why am I in the office now teaching you? There has to be a reason. Okay, the reason is to educate you and all that. Then what? Then I get paid. Then what? I got paid and you got educated. Then what? Also can teach it to other people. Why? Then what? You have reached the end to please Allah. So why you want to please Allah? So when I stand in front of you, you see now there is a higher goal. When I stand in front of Allah and He tell me what did you do with that part of your life? Then I tell him, Allah, I was doing my best. I made mistakes, but I do my best to serve you. I said, yeah, okay, enter Jannah, inshallah. May Allah make us among those. So now there is a purpose. There is a purpose. That's why Muslims not supposed to be committing suicide. Why? Because I'm going to go there anywhere. So whatever happens in this life, good or bad, is going to be paid off there. If I am poor, I'm going to be rich there. If I am rich, I'm going to be rewarded there. So whatever you have, you'll be satisfied with because that's what it is. So that's about the life. So qasas of the Quran proves to you these things. and the Sunnah. And this you hear from the story of the prophet who passed by Jerusalem and he died for 100 years and then Allah brought him back, or the people of the cave 309 years and Allah brought them back to show us that Allah can resurrect. The way he created us from nothing, we go to nothing, and then from that nothing Allah create us again. Yani if he brings us, if he brought us from nothing in the beginning, it's easy for him subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring us back in the same shape or different shape or better shape. Allah knows. And this is in Baqarah 259 about the story of the recreation of the man who died 100 years. Also, among the benefits of the stories, or the goals of the stories, is to show the authority, the power, the ability, the will of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and how he subjugates everything, and nobody can subjugate Allah. He can take, he can give. He gave Maryam alayhi salam a son without father. Surah Maryam, verse 16 onwards. Some of the stories of the Quran, they repeat a lot. Like the story of Adam, the story of Musa, for example. Why the stories are repeated? Now, we take some of the benefits of repeating the stories in the Quran. Right? We talk the benefit of the story of Quran. Now, why the stories of the Quran are repeated? To emphasize on the importance of that story and to show us that it has multiple lessons, not one lesson. So if the story of Adam mentioned in one place, mentioned in another place, you're going to find different details, and different details giving you different things. Story of Musa alayhi salam, different places, you'll find each one has an aspect. So that's the emphasis on the same story. Allah does not want to put it in one place, it will not serve the purpose. Story of Yusuf in one place, it will serve the purpose. It would not if it comes separate, because that comes in a time for the Prophet that he was in that stress. So he needs to know from the beginning to the end what happened. So he knows that started with Yusuf alayhi salam, like started with him. Yusuf and his brothers, you and your family and the tribe. Yusuf went to jail, you are in the quarantine that they were making against the Prophet from all types of dealing. And then Yusuf alayhi salam became the leader, and you are going to go to Medina and become the leader. So this has to be given on the same spot. Subhanallah. The repetition shows us the importance of the story and the multiplicity of the lessons. Also to firm people's heart. So if you hear it and hear it again over with a new detail and over with a new detail, you keep interested. You keep interested. You go to the Quran and say, oh, where did Musa alayhi salam, where this man spoke back to Fir'aun? It's not Al-Baqarah, it's not Al-Imran, it's not Al-A'raf, it's not Taha. Oh, it is in Surah Ghafir. Now you know the detail is there. You love the Quran and interact with it more. To show us also the amazing way of presenting story. This would not be accepted among us human beings, that I give you part of the story and then you go to somewhere to get a part of the story. You want it in one place. You want it in one place. You want to see the movie from beginning to end. You do not want to see 5 minutes from the movie and to go next week for another 5 minutes. Yeah, man, no, I'm not going to do that. Because it's a movie, right? But you want to see the story. But Quran, you love the stories when it is separated like this. So you can hear and love the whole Quran. The stories of the hadith or the sunnah of the Prophet, we have 2 types of stories. I'm sorry, 5 types of the stories in the sunnah of the Prophet. 5 types. 1, things that happened to the Prophet ﷺ himself, like Al-Isra al-Mi'raj, the night trip and the heavens trip, that he explained exactly what happened to him. So stories that happened to the Prophet. قصة تمثيلية, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam gave a story, but it is more of a parable, not an actual story, but it's a parable. طبعا parable is different from the story, مثال, but sometimes it is in the context of the story. People who are traveling in the ship, the people who who keep the limits of Allah without transgressing, and the people who do not, is the example of some people, they made a raffle, who's going to ride the upper deck and who's going to be the lower deck of the ship. And then they travel in the sea. And then, the people under to drink from the river, they have to go up the upper deck and ask them to give them water. So they say, if we do not have to go and disturb them all the time, we make a hole in the bottom of the ship so we can drink straight from the river. If the people who are up leave them to do that, they will all drown. But if they prevent them from doing that, even though it is easier and more efficient for them, but it is going to destroy everybody. So that's a story, but it did not happen. There was no people traveling in the ship and all that, but that's an example of stories. I would not put it as a story. I would put it as a parable. I'm just telling you, and I would not put this as a type of story, but it is one scholar said that it is قصة تمثيلية, يعني a parable story. But for my opinion, story is one thing and a parable is one thing. Then you have the past story or the غيبي story. يعني we did not see, we did not know, and it happened in the past. Right? Some of the scholars added future things in the dunya as a story, not in the Yawm al-Qiyamah. Like the story of Dajjal, Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Those are stories of what is going to happen, and we believe it's going to happen, which is okay. Other scholars said story means it happened already. But those have a point in saying that any story that happening or will happen, we believe it as well. Like the Prophet said about the story of Dajjal, the end of time, sun comes from the west, and Isa will do this and that. And of course, it will happen the same exact way the Quran and the Sunnah said. So that's the third type. The third type. Now, what is the fourth type? We have the قصة الواقعية قصة العملية. قصة الواقعية قصة عملية. يعني what does that mean? That in Quran and the Sunnah you find something that realistic, that it is happening. The hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he goes and he could not find any milk or any food, and then he bring a glass of milk and this happened, the barakah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all of that. That's waqi'. We all can relate to that. So we all can relate to that. And we all can see that some of us, sometimes it is tight, some of us it is this, some of us it is that. Now, قصة العملية, يعني very practical thing. It's a practical thing. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, somebody come and ask him a question, and he said, you should do it such and such way. And he said, oh, that's very practical. So, يعني طبعا all of this, just اجتهاد divisions. And I don't want you to get stuck with it. It is more of a person's choice to do it like that. In my opinion, قصة is قصة. It's a story, whether it happened in the past, it will happen in the future in our life, whether it is for profit or for people, whether it is for believers or non-believers, whether it includes the conflict between good and bad, or it's only about purely about bad or purely about good. It's a story. What I care about from today's session is the benefits of the stories and the repetition. Benefit of the story is to establish our aqidah, to make our hearts firm, like it made the Prophet's heart firm, to learn and relate from it in different stages of our life, different aspects of our life, practically, realistically, get a lesson from it. It is repeated so we can know more lessons and so on. So this is basically about the stories. And the stories of the Quran, and for today I talk about the benefits only of the story, because I do not want to get engaged in stories, but I mentioned a few stories already to give you a taste of it. Some personal, some from the Sunnah, some from the Quran. We talked about the story of the man who, the Prophet, they call Uzair. His name is Uzair in the Sunnah, and the Quran also mentioned, but in that story, he died 100 years when he said, who is going to resurrect this village or this town after its destruction? So he died 100 years. Then Allah showed him how the donkey comes up and, become alive again. And he went through the same thing. And he goes out and they find the town is like inhibited and the civilization and all of that. So that's Allah's power show him the resurrection and all of this. So that's the story. Story of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam with the birds. Allah showed him how he created the birds and all of that. The story of the people of the cave, 309 years. The story of the person who have the two gardens and he disbelieved in Allah and Allah burned them. The story of the people after their father died, they did not want the poor people come, Surah Al-Qalam. And then Allah burned it for them. And many other stories of people who were not necessarily prophets happen in the Quran. Qarun, or the person, Surah Al-A'raf, the one Allah gave him knowledge, but he left the knowledge and he pursued the dunya, then Allah Azza wa Jal punish him. And we mentioned from the stories of the Sunnah, the man who asked his children to burn him, stories of the Prophet's life, with Al-Ahzab, a person come to the story and ask him about something, and the Prophet ﷺ say, story for Isra al-Mi'raj. The idea is not to count stories or narrate stories. The idea is what you learn from stories and what does it do to you every time you recite it. Okay, and that is the healing part of the Quran through stories. And the story is one of the greatest styles to raise children, to educate youth, to relate ourselves, to talk with each other, relate to those stories, and we learn from them more and more, inshallah. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa barak ala Sayyidina Muhammad, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khair.